Hi YouTubers, it's Fortune Cookie 45LC. We got a video here talking about plastics. Now you know all of us realize that plastics are all around us. From such things as pens, to children's toys, to AR-15 magazines, to containers, and even bowling balls made out of plastic. And we don't have any problem with that because plastics to us sounds like something that is cheap and we use it and throw it away and this kind of thing. But when it comes to our guns, we don't like it when we refer to our guns having plastic, because plastic sounds cheap. And that's not true at all. We have many fine firearms now, whether they're rifles, shotguns, pistols, that have polymer in there, like the Glock. The frame is made out of polymer, and we almost salivate when we hear the term polymer. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, YouTubers out there, but the term polymer, the term plastic, the term resin, they all mean the same thing. And the science of plastics has been around for over 100 years. Basically what a plastic is, or a polymer, or a resin, they're all the same thing. And what you have is a chemical compound that is either a ether or an ester or an ethylene or any of these kind of things, that what they are repeatable molecules that are made up of carbon and hydrocarbons, and you have a repeated base structure. And then you have monomer that has in there initiators and reacting chemicals that cause these repeatable compounds to become long chain molecules. And that's where the term polymer comes from. Poly means many. So that when these compounds form, they all link together into long chains. And then we have in the ingredients here agents that cause cross-linking. What cross-linking is you have many chains that are together like this, and then cross-links of chemical cross-links will occur between all of the chains, and that locks the chains together. And when this sets, it's a process called polymerization or polymerization. And what we have at the end is a material that we can design any kind of strength, whether it's compressive strength or tensile strength or strength and flexible strength, hardness. We can design a polymer or a plastic that will suit our needs. It'll do anything we want, depending on how many cross links there are and the makeup of these chains. We can get a material that will take care of what we need. So to illustrate this, here's what happens. When you take the monomer and the activating agents and the initiators, and you mix it into the compound, and once you mix it, the polymerization reaction will start to occur. Now your materials engineers will then go ahead and take this plastic or polymer, whatever you want to call it, and inject it into a mold to make any kind of shape we want. And we can actually put other materials into this, and that becomes what is called a composite. And certainly metal parts could be embedded into it. Like so. And you have something like this. Now, of course, this will be injection molded into a mold to get a very specific shape, so that it could come out like this. Or you could have two halves that could be brought together and make something like this. Now certainly Gaston Glock was an engineer, and it turned out that Austria needed a new handgun for their military. And Gaston Glock, being the engineer he was, he didn't have firearms experience, but he did know polymers, which is plastics. And he designed a plastic that would take care of the strength required to handle the requirements of a pistol. And he studied and he designed the pistol. And the traditional firearms makers resisted it. And we know what happened after that. But certainly plastics were used in firearms even way back when. Now, as you recall, in 1959, Remington came out with a nylon 66. And then, none other than the AR-15 or M16 used a lot of plastic back in the Vietnam War. So polymers, there's nothing new with polymers. They've been around for a long time. And when we say that there's a high-tech polymer, well, really, the science of plastics has been around for over 100 years. And whether we're using polyethers or polyethylenes or polyamides or polyurethanes or polycarbonates, All of these are plastics. And they're all available and can be designer created in terms of strength, flexibility, durability. All of these things can be designed into the plastic to make a gun like the Glock. So there's nothing really new. If we want to call it polymer, it's still plastic. It's the same thing. Plastics and polymers and resins are all the same. Take bowling balls. Used to be that bowling balls are made out of rubber, but then came the polyurethane balls, which revolutionized the sport of bowling. And then after that, that was back in the 70s. And then after that came the reactive resins, which is nothing more than a different kind of plastic. But these were formulated to give better gripping on the lane surfaces so that it again revolutionized the sport of bowling. What we call this high tech. Basically, the chemistry of doing the plastics has been around for quite a while, at least 50 to 70 years. The different kinds of plastics that are available. It's just a question of formulating it. So plastics have been used in firearms for quite a while now, and whether we call it polymer or plastic, it's still the same thing. Gaston Glock himself even said that by calling it polymer, he could charge an extra $200 per pistol. Now what happens with this is the polymerization reaction starts to occur, and this material sets into a hard plastic, and here are the Glock rails that were incorporated into the plastic, and you put a slide on top of that and you've got the makings of a Glock pistol. So you see how it's setting? That's the polymerization reaction. And the more cross-linking you get between all the long chains, the stronger this material is. And it can still have flexibility, it can still have a little bit of flexing to it and still maintain its strength. And that's where you have the Glock pistol. So YouTubers out there, we can call it polymer, and we don't have to object when we consider that this is plastic. It happens to be a very strong, very tough, durable plastic. But whether you call it polymer or plastic, it's still the same thing. It's a long chain molecules that were polymerized into long chains that are cross-linked together to give us a material that we can use to make firearms with. And Gaston Glock was not a genius. He was an engineer. He had a problem and he solved it. He solved it with what was available, and he understood the science of the plastics, and he made that work for a firearm. And so it was a question of problem solving by an engineer. And other engineers in other countries could have done what he did. Just turned out that he did. YouTubers out there, have a very nice day, and we certainly do enjoy our polymer pistols, our polymer shotguns, our polymer rifles like the ARs, the polymer shotguns like the Nova, like the Benellis. Wonderful. So the fact that polymers are used, plastics are used in our guns does not make them cheap. It's just another material that works for the guns. Thank you very much. Have a very nice day.